Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I'm Iris, and I am going to talk with you about this opposition between the planet Mars and the planet Pluto. And I'm going to be totally honest, I was absolutely not planning to make a video on this. I just kept seeing in the astro online social media world so much and so many people kind of getting these titles out there and this explosive energy out there about Mars and Pluto, and I didn't really want to participate in that. And I have a little different lens of this through an evolutionary and embodied practice. And then I found myself in my own Mars opposite Pluto story playing out. And it's still playing out, of course, because we're in it. And I thought, no, you know what? I am going to make a video about that. And it felt so serious, and now I'm laughing, but I kind of like that. If this is your first time on my channel, welcome. I'm Iris, and I talk about evolutionary astrology and healing paths and being on these complicated journeys. And this video is a little bit different than my usual kind of full moon and new moon updates, because I do really want to talk about this transit, and I do think it's really important. And I also think it's really important that we sit honestly with the energy as astrologers and with the chart. And to be honest, the energy is going to talk to us all differently based on our own journeys, based on our own practices that we have, based on our own learnings and different types of education that we have, and how we work with consciousness. And I have to admit that I find this energy quite beautiful. And I don't use that word lightly. And I do come to my own experience of beauty with a strong Scorpio stellium. So it's no probably surprise that for me, when something is truly beautiful, it holds the complexities of experience. It holds the depths. It holds the opportunity for mystical birth and rebirth. And we are in such a moment right now. And you know, there's so much with this Mars-Pluto opposition. And it's not just the Mars-Pluto opposition of November. It is also that of the end of December into January, and it is also the Mars-Pluto opposition of April, because Mars is going to go retrograde. And so we are in process with this soul conversation that is unraveling right now. And there is so much out there that is choosing to interpret this moment through a very traditional patriarchal lens. And that is to only look at power over, to only look at interpreting these two archetypes in terms of power over and the quest for more power over others. And yes, we can choose that. Is that what the astrology of the moment is even asking us to look at? And I would argue very strongly, no, it is not. Does that mean that we're not going to see that play out in the collective? Of course not. Of course we might see it play out in the collective. And yet, I really invite you for a moment to suspend the collective, to suspend anxiety about what is playing out, especially around the US election right now. Just for a moment, okay, yes, the collective and ideologies and histories of power are always part of our own individual paths. This is what intersectional feminism has brought to collective consciousness. And yet, that said, indigenous wisdom traditions have been teaching that for a very long time. And yet, astrology offers us this gift of self-inquiry. And so to really reflect on how this Pluto-Mars opposition is speaking to us on our own inquiry and growth and healing journeys. Because when that happens, when more of us tune in, as we all do here in this community, into these individual journeys of evolution and transformation, and they are not easy, the collective changes. The collective always changes when we do that work, and especially when we open to healing grace. And so there is this opportunity for us to release during this moment. And it's a release that is part of a process that is leading us into April of 2026, because that's the final passing of this particular Mars-Pluto opposition. And at that point, we will have both Pluto and Mars in different signs than they are right now. We will have Mars in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius. And that's where they'll also be for the second phase of this conversation, when Mars is retrograde. And Mars will be retrograde in Leo before it moves back into Cancer. And Pluto will be already in Aquarius, of course, because it moves there in 2 weeks. And so this moment, this first passing, is an opportunity for us to really look at how we have experienced abuses of power, how we have experienced and internalized obsession with power over, to acknowledge it, to see how it's impacted us, and to release it. To lean into Mars in Cancer and the fact that Pluto and Mars during the new moon in Scorpio are squaring Juno in Libra, and to find compassion and equanimity, and to sit with whatever is coming up in our life right now, especially around relationships and energies that are about power, that are about power over, to actively disengage and to release the patternings that most of us have been carrying for lives, because that's how deep this energy is, and to choose a different direction. And we hope and pray that the collective can choose that direction in so many different ways. And yet, as we do it for ourselves, it does ripple out, and it impacts community, and it impacts our relationship, and it impacts where we work, and it impacts the circles that we're part of. And those circles connect to other circles. And that is how the collective changes from the inside out. And that is what this opposition, as part of more complex cosmic symphony, is really offering. And we are seeing an exposure of the abuses of power. We are seeing the ways that cultures that fetishize immense wealth and celebrity, that in itself is part of a culture of power over, and that celebrity structure and the wealth structure is part of histories and ideologies of power and patriarchy and colonialism and white supremacy that get all fused and internalized by anyone who structures their life to simply gain more wealth and power over others. And that is what patriarchy, as an ideology of power over, teaches, and then mixes with complicated histories of colonialism in North America. And yet, when we grow up in our own microcosms, those ideologies of power, they're present in education systems, they're present in knowledge systems, they're present in the interpretive lens with which something like a field, whether it's psychology or economies, have been constructed. And we have so many people in so many different realms that are doing the work of unlearning that and changing. And this astrology moment of Mars opposite Pluto is such an opportunity to walk away from power over models. And rather than assuming that it leads into explosive energy because more and more people are seeking that power over, we can sit with the energies of Mars and Cancer. And it doesn't mean that difficult moments aren't going to arise during this time. They probably are. But what is absolutely up and open to our choice is how we respond and how we react. And when we're reacting, we're usually moving from kind of embodied and ingrained patterns that have been there for a pretty long time. And they're usually there from an intersection of education and family and society and the media. And most of those things have been normalized into the power structures of power over that the traditional reading of Mars and Pluto tends to lend itself to. And yet Pluto is about our soul's empowerment. It's about evolving out of disempowerment, about having the courage on a deep soul level that goes beyond our conscious mind to choose a different path in this life. That's what evolutionary gifts us when we come into a chart, to see how that choice is an option for us. And so often I love it when we're sitting with a chart and it's like, what's the soul path about? And it's about learning how I want to show up in relationship. It's about learning how I want to relate to understanding the world. It's about learning how I want to relate to my own values. You know, society teaches us that it's about this big legacy, or it's about how many boxes you've checked off in climbing the social ladder. It's about having that foundation that has a name attached to it. And the astrology chart is like, not really. It's usually about our own relationship in a sphere of life, and how difficult that journey is, right? Sometimes it's a lot easier to be out there in the world for certain folks and to have all the big celebrity around it than it is to actually spend 5 minutes in silence, sitting with everything that's going on in the mind body. And when we come to the practices that do that, and astrology shows us in our own natal chart what's there for us, everything can change. And so, you know, witness what's emerging for you this week. Witness as we move into and through the new moon on the November 1st, because this opposition between Pluto and Mars carries us through this first stage of November. What's emerging? What emotions are emerging? What situations in life are popping up? Are there people popping up that are triggers, that were triggers at another point in life? Can we meet the experience and really practice self-care? Where self-care on one of the deepest levels is allowing ourselves to reprogram those reactive responses, where we do step away, where we sit with the heaviness, where we sit with what's emerging, and we witness it, and we hold it in ceremony with love for ourselves. Mars in Cancer, we can bring love to ourself with such integrity. Juno at the 29th degree of Libra, we can hold that integrity with ourself, with the goddess, with others. As we come into this final shedding of Pluto and Capricorn, and it deserves to shed. And no matter what, we are heading into Pluto and Aquarius. We are heading into a new age. And we have that for 20 years. So remember, 20 years. Okay? I just used this quote in a Patreon video, but it's coming back up now, so I'm going to use it again. But I always have this quote from Bell Hooks, which is that social justice never is achieved in one swoop. that it is the rippling effect of day after day and life after life and family circle after family circle and intergenerational trauma breaking as individuals and families do come into those healing circles. And we do that as communities. And we're just this ongoing mosaic shifting. And Pluto in Aquarius is taking us into that. And there might be a little bit of spaciousness that can open if we remember that we're moving. We got 20 years that we're coming in to learn, hopefully, how to come into new collective ways of being human together so that we are actually embodying justice and equity and beauty and letting grace be in our flesh and in our breath and simply being here. And that is all present in this astrology. That is all present in this conversation between Mars and Pluto. And so always holding that, even if we're witnessing the power over struggles, which we will be witnessing, because humans have yet collectively to not get pulled into power over. All you need to do is look at like 95% of what is entertainment on any streaming platform, and it's mostly shows about power over struggles for entertainment, supposedly entertainment. I'm a critical media studies professor, so I like to kind of pull that up and look at how nothing's really just entertainment. But we have this obsession with power over. And even when, we're resting from the struggles in our work or here where it's coming up, then a lot of times the media that's getting consumed is about power over and usually glorifying and fetishizing really wealthy experiences. And so we're letting it go. We need new media. We need new stories. We need new myths. We need reclaiming and imagination. And you know who's absolutely wonderful for that visionary crafting of new stories? Aquarius. Aquarius can see those stories in one glimpse and then give words to them. And so we have 20 years, and it's going to be messy. It's going to be really messy, Pluto and Aquarius. And yet there is such opportunity for growth and expansion. And so this Mars opposite Pluto is part of that. It's part of a birthing. And there is a death song playing. And a lot of us can hear that death song, whether it comes in our dreams or we hear it in our bones. There is a death song. It is a requiem. It is playing. And that comes because there is also a birthing. And so just holding space for yourself as you move through Mars opposite Pluto and reflecting on your own self-inquiry and healing path and finding the self-care and witnessing what's unraveling and letting it unravel. It doesn't need to be fixed. It might actually just need to be witnessed with love and released. And release is, for me, what this Pluto opposite Mars is really opening us to. Release. Release from what has been as we journey into the unknown, and it is unknown. And when we're journeying through unknown terrain, it's good to have good footwear. Let's get good footwear, metaphorically and probably literally, for Pluto and Aquarius as we journey forth, right? Also kicking off that footwear to go barefoot in those moments when it's safe and nourishing to do so. And so as we journey forth, I'm sending love, and I will see you soon. Take care.